Hey there, and welcome to another edition of Tour Confidential. I'm Ryan Aselta, and happy to be joined this week by Golf.com's Dylan Techair and Sean Zock. And guys, Gary Woodland wins the Waste Management Phoenix Open, a record-setting Phoenix Open when it comes to numbers, and that's attendance numbers, rowdiness. We basically saw it all this week out there in Scottsdale. Let's get your take. A lot of complaints. Jordan Spieth complaining a bit, Ricky Fowler, Phil Mickelson talking about how uncomfortable he was in this atmosphere. We're talking over 700,000 people came through the gates at TPC Scottsdale. Dylan, has the Waste Management Open gotten out of control?
No, it hasn't. I don't think so. I mean, this doesn't happen every week on tour. This isn't a major issue. And yeah, we are seeing more and more that one guy in the crowd can screw up a player's shot. But no, I'm all for it. And I don't want to hear any more from the tour walking back saying, oh, maybe this isn't quite what we wanted. They built this. This is exactly what they built. And now they need to own it. What
do you think, Sean? They've created this party, frat house type of atmosphere, as we see from the costumes, the video, the streaker over the week. What do you think, Sean?
I'll say this. Any of my friends that are sports fans and not exactly golf fans, they know this event and they know the four majors. And maybe they know the players, but that's it. They want to go to this event. They want to go from college on spring break, go down to Scottsdale and take in a raucous scene. And like you said, this is what was built to have this scene, to 2 decades ago have Tiger Woods have beer cans thrown all over the place when he makes the ace. This is what they wanted. This is what they're getting. The only thing that the tour can really do is if a couple players want to act together and not play. That's how they speak loudly. Speaking in a press conference post-round saying, you know what, I was uncomfortable out there. That's not going to really last. Yeah. They need to speak with either joining the field or staying away from the field. I think that's how they speak loudest.
Yeah, I think we're in agreement. I love the atmosphere. I love that this is a unique event. It's not every week, like you said, Dylan. There's other events that try to get a little bit like this. The Players is inching that way with the atmosphere and the concerts and whatnot. But as far as the style of this event, I love it. The crowds, though, may be a bit of a concern for me. When you're talking about, they broke their record by 65,000 fans for the week. They had over 200,000 fans on Saturday. I don't even know how you get around a golf course to see golf as a patron watching with that many fans there. And like you alluded to, Dylan, there's always a couple bad apples. When you got 200,000 fans, there's a lot of bad apples that work their way in. But the complaints from the guys, hey, you're a professional athlete. You got to deal with the booze. You got to deal with the heckling. You get the cheers when you do well. And once in a while, someone's going to yell in your backswing. It happens. You got to deal with this just like baseball, football, basketball players deal with. They're dealing with it now. When it comes to the numbers, do you think the tour has to cap it at some point, Sean? I mean, these numbers are astonishing. 719,000 fans.
Yeah, they grew by about 9.5%, the total numbers across the week. That's probably a little too much. I mean, the majors don't even get this amount of people out there, and we know how difficult it is to tromp around a major, around fairway to green. It's difficult. So at some point, it hits a breaking point. But we're not there yet, and the Waste Management, they're getting everything they have asked for out of their sponsorship, and they're not going to back away from this. They love the scene. So I think it's the tour that has to step in, but it's not always their call.
Yeah, I think it's a combination. It's either you cap the number somewhere and then just keep the atmosphere, and the guys got to deal with it. If the purse is there, the guys are going to show up. We know that over the years. Speaking of majors you mentioned, let's talk about one of the governing bodies in the major championships. It comes to the USGA, where Mike Davis this week recently at the USGA's conference down in Florida has some interesting things to say about the distance debate, guys. He said basically the distance is not good for the game of golf and what's going on. He has called it in the past, I think a Wall Street Journal a few months ago, that the distance boom is horrible. I spoke with him down in Florida a few weeks ago. This is the message that he's going with, Dylan. You were down there listening to what Davis had to say. What's your take on Mike Davis and the distance debate?
I do think it's nice to hear them take a firm stance that, this is bad. More distance is bad. And every time, we see this new technology coming out, I went to a couple of golf ball plants, and you see this new developments in golf ball technology. It's incredible. But every time they come out with something new, you kind of think, this isn't necessarily a good thing ultimately. So it's nice to hear them say that. But the big next step, what do you do about it? And they're getting a lot of feedback. It seems like they don't necessarily want to dictate what people should do without getting a lot of input from different people, making sure that that as many people are happy as possible. But it's going to come to a head, and it's going to be awkward and uncomfortable, whatever the ultimate solution is. And I still haven't really heard a good answer for what that should be.
Sean, the governing bodies seem to be unified here in their message as far as the USGA, the PGA of America, and the R&A. They say that there's a problem. Mike Davis told me a couple weeks ago that his concern is cost and sustainability long-term for the game. He mainly talks about golf courses.
Yeah.
Where do you make that divide, though? The concern over golf courses, but the distance boom is really at the professional level. That's the major concern.
Yeah, it is, but it's also intertwined with equipment, because all of these things, all of golf's problems are intertwined between distance and courses and maintenance and sustenance and equipment. Like, all these things are tied together, and I think it has to come from the top down. I think it has to come from the PGA Tour and the best professionals down. If you can get the best players on tour, or at least the governing bodies, to say, we don't want golf balls traveling more than 350 yards. We want to cap it. We want a limited flight golf ball, or some type of equipment that will keep the best players from reaching like the absolute depths of 400 yards off the tee. If you can get to that level, I think it will trickle down. I think it's a trickle down effect that I think Titleist and TaylorMade and Callaway, they're going to have to be involved with this decision making too. Like, it is so much more widespread than just the governing bodies, but I think that's where the decision comes from.
Yeah, and I don't know what they're going to do here. Obviously, the jury's still out on the decision to be made here, but when it comes to a limited flight golf ball, if you poll amateur golfers, weekend golfers, recreational golfers, no one wants to play those.
Nope.
So where is the concern? Is it with golf courses at the tour level and controlling that distance? Well, we're talking then, Dylan, about a limited amount of golf courses that host tour level events, aren't we?
I think we are, but one of the appeals of golf is that the game that we play at a lower amateur level, we like that is the same game that's being played at the professional level. You know, when guys go play pick-up hoops, it's on the same court, but it's not really, there's no real sense that it's the same game. When we hit a 300-yard drive, it's like, oh man, that's awesome. That's the same thing that those pros do on the same course, and you can compare yourself in a way that I think other sports don't really demand.
Yeah, and the fact that you can go play Pebble Beach or a Chambers Bay that has hosted major championships with the same Titleist, TaylorMade, Callaway drivers that the pros use, it's a big appeal. Guys, it's a debate that's been going on for quite a while, not going away anytime soon until we get some resolution from the governing bodies. Sean, Dylan, thanks so much for being with us, and thanks for you for joining us this week on Tour Confidential. Of course, you can catch us next week right here on Golf.com.